retired Constitutional Court Justice and Chairperson of Freedom Under Law, Johann Kriegler, joins me now from Cape Town. Justice, thank you so much for your time. First of all, I want to ask you about day one. I know you watched a fair bit of it. How do you think Judge Mandlanga did?
Come now, Sally. Don't ask me to anticipate the JSC's job. He's a competent man. He's a good judge. I think he's very, very tired this evening. I think he's satisfied that the JSC gave him a very fair and full hearing.
All right. Okay. So let's move on to the concerns raised by Freedom Under Law. Let's first deal with Advocate Dali Mpofu. He was charged, he's facing charges of professional misconduct, and this, my understanding is, it relates to when he was cross-examining Minister Pravin Gordhan for his client Tom Moyane, formerly of SARS. And there was a point, and I remember it well, where he told Pravin Gordhan's counsel to shut up, and I think he also told Pravin Gordhan to shut up. So my question to you is, when it comes for the turn of Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondi to be interviewed, do you expect that Advocate Dali Mpofu will be able to be impartial? Because that is what lawyers, advocates are all meant to do, surely.
Sally, I don't know what he's going to do in his questioning of the acting Chief Justice, but that's not the issue as far as we're concerned. We say the JSC is the quality control body. The members of the JSC decide whether people who ask for certain judicial appointments are fit for that office, whether they are people of integrity. And it is unthinkable, or certainly undesirable, for the quality controllers themselves to be subject to a cloud in respect of their professional integrity, which applies to both Advocate Mpofu and to Mr. Malema.
The fact that Dali Mpofu, during that cross-examination, had an outburst, is that what makes you feel he's unfit, or are there other issues?
Oh, no, Sally. It's not a question of him having an outburst. He has now been charged by the chairman of the General Council of the Bar before the Legal Practice Council. A committee of that council has held a hearing, and it has concluded that he should be disciplined for misbehavior. He is a senior sook, and he behaved in a manner that is unbefitting the profession. That's the finding that has been made against him. It's not us who say that. That is a charge hanging over Mr. Mpofu's head, a professional charge. If you have a professional charge over your head, you should ask yourself seriously whether you can sit in judgment on the integrity of somebody else.
And explain to me the concerns around Julius Malema, because I understand it does relate to his conduct in a previous JSC sitting.
It does indeed. The complaint against him was wider, but eventually he was found guilty by the Ethics Committee of having abused his position as a member of the Judicial Service Commission to ask a question of a candidate which was intended to advance his own interests and was not in the public interest. Which, of course, that's also a serious allegation.
Do you know how JSC members are chosen? I know that it's a mixture of advocates, senior advocates, parliamentarians, politicians, but it doesn't necessarily follow that because you're the leader of the third largest political party in the country that you definitely will be there. Because I note, for example, that Glynis Breitenbach is representing the DA. Obviously, she's not the leader of the DA, but she is formerly a prosecutor. So how are people chosen to sit on the JSC, and who gets to make that choice?
Sally, the various members of the JSC fall into one or other of a number of categories. First of all, there are judicial members. There are certain members of the judiciary who form part of the committee. Then there are certain professional persons, 2 advocates, 2 attorneys, 1 legal academic, representing the 3 separate branches of the legal profession. Then there are representatives of the House of Assembly, the National Assembly, elected by Parliament, appointed by Parliament on a proportional basis by the parties represented in the House. The majority that the ANC has entitles it to nominate 4 members. The minority parties, between the lot of them, can appoint 2 members. One is the DA of the official opposition's nominee, Advocate Breitenbach. The other is the EFF's nomination. They nominated their leader, who has taken a very active role and at times a highly questionable role on the Judicial Service Commission.
Just very quickly, you have now asked for Dali Mpofu and Julius Malema, for the reasons you've explained, to step aside from this process. Is it the call of them personally to make, or is there someone within the JSC who has to consider this? Who are you appealing to, and have you had any response?
There is no rule. Of course, there can't be a rule on an issue such as this. It's a matter of common decency and common sense. We appeal to the 2 gentlemen concerned. The Judicial Service Commission cannot kick them out, and we're not asking for that. We are asking that the 2 gentlemen ask themselves whether they can, in good conscience, proceed to be judging other people when they themselves are under a cloud. That's as far as it goes. Whether this leads to litigation later by somebody or other is not for us to say.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We do appreciate it. That is, of course, Judge Johann Kriegler, and he, of course, is the Freedom Under Law Chairperson and a retired Constitutional Court Justice.